Matthew, and while he yet spoke, lo, Judas. Mark, and immediately while he yet spoke, comes Judas. And is both. Mark immediately while he yet spoke. So I'm not going to use the lo here because I just used it earlier. Comes Judas. Matthew has came. Judas, one of the 12, came. Mark is comes Judas, one of the 12. Instead of comes Judas, I know I'm going to go with Judas, one of the 12, came. Judas, one of the 12, is both. I forgot Luke. And John, that's right. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and scribes, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. So yeah, this is the point where all 4 of them come together. So I can't just have Matthew and Mark. Luke also has while he yet spoke. So I could combine that. John's is kind of weird. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said to them. So Jesus went to them. Versus Judas came. Could have, and immediately while he yet spoke, Judas, one of the 12, having received a band of men from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns. Okay, so that's where the came can be put in there. So I'll save came for later. This Judas actually is all 3. A multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12. How can I put he that was called Judas? Before the name of Judas, I'll put the statement from Luke, he that was called. Now all 4. Judas. One of the 12. One of the 12 is in Luke. John doesn't have that. So now it reads, and immediately while he yet spoke, he that was called Judas then, one of the 12. Actually, no, I don't know if that works. Maybe I could have then after one of the 12. He that was called Judas, one of the 12, then having received a band of men and officers. Or I could just leave off then, because that's only in John. And it seems to fit best. He that was called Judas, one of the 12, having received a band of men. Yeah, I'm just going to leave off then. It doesn't work with one of the 12. And immediately was said earlier. So what's the timing? Immediately, while he had spoke. I don't need to have then as well. So I'll just move on to having received a band of men. Yeah, is there anything else? Matthew has, came with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and elders of the people. Mark, Judas with a multitude, swords and staves. Luke, the multitude is mentioned first. Behold a multitude, and he that was called Judas. I think I should just match with Matthew, Mark, and John, mentioning Judas first, then the multitude. John says band, not multitude. A band of men and officers from the chief priests. I think I'm going to go with multitude, because band, he doesn't explain away how large the group is. When I think of band, to be perfectly honest, I think of like 6 to 10, maybe 15. But a multitude is a very common word, and that is hundreds or thousands. So maybe that's not the best word. I don't know, it really depends on how many people are actually there. It doesn't actually say. Let me read on and see if there's anything that explains. Multitudes is repeated in Matthew 26:55. In that same hour said Jesus to the multitude, are you come out as against a thief with swords and staves? So it's a multitude twice in Matthew. So it doesn't say multitude in Mark. Luke, it's be you come out as against a thief. No mention of the multitude. John, there's no mention of that band again. So Matthew mentions the multitude again. Maybe I should use the word band now, because the word multitude is used later in Matthew. Now, I am going to use multitude now because Matthew explains it's a great multitude, and band seems like a much smaller group. While he yet spoke. I could have behold from Luke, behold he that was called Judas. Yeah, I'll do that. Luke just has a multitude and Judas went before them and drew near to Jesus. So it doesn't have that they arrived. Judas came, and with him a great multitude. So that would work for Matthew. Mark has comes Judas. But I think the way John has it is the best. Having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Having received a band, but I'm not going to have band, I'll have a great multitude from Matthew and Mark. Matthew has a great multitude. Mark, a great multitude. Luke, a multitude. So the A is all 4. Of men is in italics in John. And officers. I don't think that's in any of the others. Just John. Of men and officers. From the chief priests and Pharisees. Matthew with swords and staves, then from the chief priests and elders. So from the chief priests, is in Mark. Luke doesn't have it. So Matthew, Mark, John, darker gray, from the chief priests. Alright, now I think I should put scribes and Pharisees together, because that's usually how they're listed. Scribes and Pharisees. And I'll save elders from Matthew and from Mark to be last. But scribes is mentioned in Mark. So, and the scribes is only Mark. Now, Pharisees is only John. Came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. And others of the people, Matthew. And the elders. And is Matthew and Mark. The is only Mark. Elders is Matthew and Mark again. But only Matthew of the people. Now came there with is Matthew. Mark it comes, so I'm not going to put that. Luke went before them. Came is Matthew and John. John continues there with lanterns. With lanterns and torches and weapons. Matthew with swords and staves. Mark, swords and staves. Luke doesn't have any weapons listed. So just Matthew, Mark, and John. The weapons would be the swords and staves. So instead of saying weapons, I'll have swords and staves. So Judas, one of the 12, having all these people, came with lights and weapons.